Happy Friday, everybody. For those of you who don't know, I'm meteorologist Brittany Voorhees here for WCNC Charlotte. I am going to go through the forecast as we look ahead to this winter storm this weekend and then answer any questions that you guys may have toward the end. So please, be sure to ask your questions, and I will do my best to answer them. And some of them may as we go through the forecast. So first of all, we do have a winter storm watch in effect for the entire viewing area as we do head toward this weekend. So this is Saturday night through Monday morning. Now, I want to remind everyone that a winter storm watch is the first step. So a winter storm warning comes afterwards. So if we were to be upgraded, that would be a warning. Oftentimes the two get confused. So again, we're just kind of on step one with this system in terms of official watches and warnings from the National Weather Service. So again, this is Saturday night and heading into Monday morning. Now, right now, the Charlotte area is trending toward a more icy event, and that has been a continuing trend over the past few days. So I just want everyone, especially if you live in the Piedmont, to kind of keep that in mind, because of the fact that ice is a much bigger impact for us, of course, than some white fluffy snow. Now, where's the system right now? Well, it's all the way up there toward the Midwest. You can see it kind of working its way toward the south, and that's pretty much where it's going to dip as we do head toward our weekend here in the Queen City. And actually, today's forecast, I'll get to it at the very end, but is going to be pretty nice. So if you had any plans to maybe try to go ahead and prepare for the storm, winterize your car, anything like that, today is the day to do it. So eventually this low is going to dip further south. And as it does so, it's going to bring all that warmth and all that moisture along with it. But what it's also going to do is feed off the warmth coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, oftentimes providing enough of that warmth, enough of that energy to kind of get a storm going even more so. And that'll mainly happen towards Saturday morning in terms of it making that dip. And then eventually it shifts across the southeast states and then toward us here in the Charlotte area. Now, if you were with me on Monday or Tuesday evening, you know that things were kind of a little bit more up in the air. We talked about how the rotation around that low could eventually provide some of that warmer air in the middle levels of the atmosphere and could allow for us to shift toward a more freezing rain and sleet situation. And that's kind of what we've been seeing, that trend toward that more sleet and freezing rain. And the reason why is that same warm weather. So you see as we progress on Futurecast here, you can see that low right over southern Georgia on Sunday morning rather. You can see that cold rain further south across the coastal parts of the Carolinas, but then you have that pink indicating the wintry mix and snow. But notice where that line is, pretty much right where Charlotte is. And that's what we're going to kind of be towing here over the next few days. It's not out of the realm of possibility that we couldn't see some snow, but it's eventually going to at some point mix in with freezing rain and sleet. So this is not going to be, if you live in the Charlotte metro, this is not going to be a straight snowfall situation. Now for this afternoon and evening, we'll be in the mid to upper 50s this afternoon, and of course temperatures eventually will fall out. Now overnight into Saturday, I do expect more clouds to start to build in, but temperatures will actually be relatively mild. I say relatively because we've been in the 20s a lot of this week, but overnight lows will largely be in the 30s. So it will be slightly more comfortable, similar to what we had this morning to kick off your Friday. Then towards Saturday afternoon, I think at times we could see a few areas of maybe some flakes, especially north there of I-40, but it's not going to be a lot of rain or a lot of precipitation at all on Saturday. But the cloudy skies and maybe even some cold air damming mixing in could allow for temperatures to only stay in the 40s. So even though Saturday is not going to be our big precipitation day, we're at least going to see those clouds keeping us a little bit chillier, a little bit more cloudy, and just kind of not the nicest Saturday forecast. And then the main event. This actually comes in just around 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. If you've been watching Brad's updates, you'll know that he has said about 2 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday. So remember, that's pretty much the entire day. And this is the main day we have to stay weather aware. So notice by about 2, 3 a.m. on Sunday, once that rain and that, of course, snow and freezing rain is starting to move in, notice that if you look from pretty much Lincolnton, Salisbury north on this particular map, so that's a northern Piedmont, maybe right on the edge there, all the way up toward the mountains, those temperatures are below the freezing mark. So anything that falls for those folks is going to be snow. But notice how even though the overlay of the moisture shows blue, the temperature in Charlotte, Gastonia, Shelby, Rock Hill, Monroe, even Waysboro and Rockingham actually shows temperatures above freezing. That would mean that we would actually start off with freezing rain and sleet, because you need temperatures at 32 degrees or lower at all levels of the atmosphere to see straight snow, which is why here in the Charlotte area, it can be so difficult to get that snow, because a lot of times with our winter storms that we do get, the 540 line, which indicates the difference between snow, freezing rain, and sleet, is almost always right over us. But notice by the late morning and early afternoon, we'll start to see our temperatures drop, which means that at some point during the day, what falls will be straight snow. But again, it's going to have to mix in with the ice, mix in with the freezing rain, and mix in with the sleet that we're going to see off and on throughout the day. Now, again, consistent rainfall off and on Sunday. It is going to be a nasty day. But what you'll notice as we progress the future cast into Sunday afternoon and even eventually toward the evening is that with temperatures much lower, again, we could eventually will see a straight snowfall event. So there's a chance that we'll start off as snow, then mix in that ice kind of throughout the middle part of the event, and then end with snow again. And that's actually something we've been watching pretty consistently. And it's important because if we start off with snow and then we mix in the ice during the day and end with snow, well, the roadways are going to be very treacherous for travel Sunday night into Monday. That's a little bit better than starting off with ice, because what happens is if we start off with ice, so we start off with freezing rain or sleet, and then we pack that snow on top of it, typically we'll be even more slick than if we start off with snow. So keep that in mind. These are kind of the trends that your local meteorologist and us here on the WCNC team will be watching heading toward the weekend. And then by Monday morning, the rain's over. Really by Sunday night, but mostly Monday morning, the rain is over. The impacts are over in terms of anything falling actively from the sky. However, we're going to see slick roads and treacherous travel. And the reason why is because it will have snowed, it will have rained, it will have sleet on the ground. And when we refreeze overnight into Monday morning, that's going to allow for that moisture, that liquid to refreeze as well, which can provide the threat there of black ice, especially treacherous, especially as you head toward our northern counties where they're going to see a lot of that snowpack too. Now, I do want to point out that it is, again, going to be treacherous for everyone. But something else that you'll notice if you live toward the Piedmont and south is that because we have a better chance for freezing rain and sleet and some of that more icy weathers to start to move in, we'll see travel problems everywhere. But we're also going to deal with that potential for power outages. And that's because that ice accumulates very quickly. Of course, bridges, overpasses, we know that, but also on tree limbs, branches, and on power outages. Now, I got a lot of questions earlier when we did this a few hours ago about why would different kinds of precipitation be falling from the same cloud? And the reason why is temperature. We just talked about this a second ago. On the left, you see rain warmer than 32 degrees at all levels of the atmosphere. And snow, pretty easy to forecast, right? It has to be lower than 32 degrees at all levels of the atmosphere. But when you mix in that warmer kind of mid-level air we talked about, that's when you get that potential for freezing rain and sleet. Now, there's two different reasons why you would get the two different ones. So it depends on the layer of that warm air. So if we do have middle layers of the atmosphere, maybe a little bit deeper, you can see that allows for freezing rain. And the reason why, it's hard to show you because of course I can't point. So the reason why, if you see that layer of freezing rain is really, really deep in the red, that's all of that warming. So it falls as snow. It warms through the mid levels of the atmosphere. And then right near the surface, it gets to 32 degrees and freezes on contact. But of course, what happens? That freezes the roads. It allows for black ice to occur. The positive thing with sleet, positive, slightly, is that it does refreeze much quicker. You can see that the warm air isn't as deep. And so it allows for it to actually develop back into ice pellets. If you've ever seen those little balls of ice, we actually had them twice already in Charlotte, other times earlier this season. It allows for them to kind of refreeze and they bounce, on the ground, and at least black ice isn't forming. But I'll counter that by telling you an example that Brad actually gave last night I thought was really great when I was rewatching his forecast, is that on a hot summer day, if you take a cup of ice and you kind of throw it on the roads, it will eventually melt. It's just not going to melt right away. So if you drove through it, of course, you'd crush the ice and then you'd have ice on the roads. And that's kind of what we'll be watching for the sleet too. So both options are icy. Both options are not ideal, but they are the ones that the cards we've been dealt here across the Charlotte area heading toward this weekend. And I showed you this graphic just to kind of give you another idea of what we're talking about when we talk about the warm nose. It's what I just told you about. It's that warm level in the middle levels of the atmosphere that allow for snow to melt back to rain and then to refreeze. I gave this example to on air just a little bit ago when we were in our midday show. But you know how when you have ice cream and you take it out of the freezer and you allow for it to melt completely? And then you try to put it back in and it does eventually refreeze and you eat it and it tastes icy and just is not never this, it's just never the same. There's never the same exact composition. And so I'd say that's kind of what I always think about with this. It's, the snow falls and it melts, but then it refreezes and that just does not allow for the potential, of course, to see any any straight snow at that point because it has already melted and refreezed. So what we're going to do now is take a few of your questions because I have seen a lot on here. Hey Seth, how's it going Friday? Well, it's pretty great weather, so that's good. Zachary asking, when does the snow begin? Zachary, it depends on where you live. This event is going to be mainly from pretty much again 2 a.m. on Sunday to 10 p.m. on Sunday. So in that case, if you live in the mountains, you'll likely see snow right around the late morning, right around maybe 5, 6 a.m. And it's going to likely stay snow for most of the day. If you live in the Piedmont, it's still uncertain whether or not you will start off with snow or start off with freezing rain of some sort. But if you do start off with snow, it would be around about 2, 3 a.m. And then I do think that pretty much everyone on the back end of this system is going to be snow. Um, Trina asking, is there still time for the storm to shift and be a bigger impact? Trina, I would say that yes, there is still the potential that it could shift a little bit more. If it shifts further south, we could get more of a snow problem. If it shifts further north, we could have more of an icy problem. But I'd say now we can kind of prepare for the worst case scenario, right? Which would be 1 to 2 inches in Albemarle of seeing some kind of accumulation of ice. And that's kind of what our forecast is right now. 1 to 2 inches, maybe at a maximum, a trace to 1 inch at a minimum. So just be prepared for that. Honestly, if I was planning on staying home and maybe I had kids, especially because, it's unfortunate it happens on a holiday weekend, but a lot of, the kids are going to be home already on Monday. So maybe you already planned for that. I would say the best case scenario is prepare as if you didn't want to leave your house Sunday or Monday, if you can. Not everyone has that option. So get any groceries maybe you would need now, get your car checked up, all that stuff today, and then just have activities for the kids, have, ways to stay indoors. And then if you are worried about the potential of losing power, which is a possibility for pretty much anyone south of I-40, have that generator. Just remember, never run it indoors. And it's also a good idea too to run it on the north side of your house because oftentimes when these storms leave, they kind of get that southerly wind wrapping around and that actually helps keep any of the fumes away from your home. In Salisbury, Joy asking how much snow, sleet, and ice. I'd say for you probably close to about 1 to 2 inches there. So just be prepared for that. Scott, pretty much more of the same, 1 to 2 inches, maybe on the lower end, a trace to 1 inch if that storm track does continue to shift. Which we expect. We've had a few of those maps on there already. All of those maps, also, if you guys haven't looked already, are posted on the WCNC website. So we have links there here and also on my social media accounts. I know Chris, Brad, Larry, everyone has shared those too. Waxhaw probably going to get ice. Definitely true, Tommy. How much snow expected in Mecklenburg County? That is going to be 1 to 2 inches. That's what we're expecting for most of Mecklenburg County, most of the Charlotte area. But that is, again, going to be snow mixed with sleet and ice. It's not going to be straight snow. No, David, not going to see anything on Saturday. Kannapolis, probably about the same, Ryan, 1 to 2 inches there. Jamie, I think that Jamie asked a question. How soon after we start to see accumulation on the roads can we expect them to become dangerously slick? So Jamie, that kind of depends on your personal preference. I don't like driving in the rain. I have personal reasons for that. Hydroplaned a few years ago. Not a story I'm going to get into on Facebook Live. But so I just really don't care to drive in the rain. I also don't love driving at night. I know I sound like a grandma, but okay, everyone has their preference. So I would say after a few hours, I personally wouldn't want to just because it's going to be a cold rain. And of course, we will be accumulating ice at that point. I'll tell you, I do think it's going to be most dangerous later Sunday and into Monday, kind of once we get that refreeze because of the fact that black ice is going to be a big possibility. Marianne, Gastonia, also about 1 to 2 inches. Remember, that is going to be a mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Yes, again, sorry, Marianne, I saw you responded to David. Thank you for that. Yes, 2 a.m. to pretty much 10 p.m. on Sunday. So it is going to be a widespread kind of all-day event. Mitt Hill, Amy, about 1 to 2 inches. I think a few spots maybe a little bit higher because the farther north that you go, you could see a little bit more. Same thing for Hickory. Jason, thanks so much for that question. Rebecca, great question. Should everything be clear weather-wise by Wednesday since the temperatures will be in the 40s? Yes. So I think by Monday morning, like I said, that's probably going to be Sunday night into Monday, your worst travel day. Highs will eventually get close to about 40, but there's a small chance that we could see a slight refreeze Tuesday morning. It will be much less than Monday, but that's just because Tuesday could actually be our coldest night that we have seen in almost a year. We'll likely see lows in the teens, but typically by at least 2 days after. So that's Tuesday. The interstates, especially, are good to go at that point just because people have been driving on them. So I think by Wednesday, yes, you should be good to go. Monroe, Waxhaw area, same thing, about 1 to 2 inches. Again, this is going to be snow mixed with sleet and freezing rain. Um, Albert, great question. I just did answer that. What kind of black ice threat do you think? I think Sunday night into Monday morning will be the worst. There's another small chance that we could see that Tuesday, but I think by Tuesday afternoon and really most of the week, we should see slightly, better conditions. I would say if you're worried about driving there, maybe wait as long as you can in the morning to leave, because of course, once temperatures start to warm up, it won't be quite as bad in terms of threats there. But I do think that we'll see much better conditions by pretty much Tuesday afternoon. Byron and York County, I think you guys could be on the very tail end of the 1 to 2 inches, if not a little bit lower than that, more of a trace to an inch, because pretty much totals in terms of snow, sleet, and freezing rain accumulation, it's higher the farther north you go and lower the further south you go. Shelby and Lincoln County, I think you guys will see a little bit more because you are north of Charlotte, 2 to 4 inches likely at your peak. And I do want to reiterate, I know I've said this a million times, so you guys are probably getting irritated, but it is snow mixed with freezing rain and, of course, ice too and sleet. This will likely not be a straight snow event for pretty much anyone out of the mountains in the foothills. Um, Kayla, is there any chance we'll see thick, pretty white snow in Lincolnton? We'll probably have to see a storm track a little bit further south to get rid of your ice potential at all. That doesn't mean that it might not be pretty in a few spots. But I do think that ice is still kind of our biggest threat right now. Marianne, I like your comment. Everyone stay home if possible and enjoy the snow. I really like, I think it's a good reminder to, we talk about this, I think, a lot of times with hurricanes, but of course, winter storms are pretty similar. Government, whoever it is, oftentimes advise folks to try to stay home if possible, but I understand that is not a reality for everyone. A lot of people do have to go to work. If it's a question of paying your rent or, being able to stay at home, I understand that, of course, it's a priority. And so just remember that you can still take those safety precautions to stay safe, even if you do have to leave. Winterizing your car, making sure that your car battery is good to go, making sure that you have gas in your car, God forbid you were to get stuck out on the roads, you would be able to stay nice and warm. I know always having an emergency kit is always recommended during travel times, really active travel times during Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's always a good idea too with winter weather, and just taking that extra time and not being too aggressive on the roadways. But yes, if you can stay home, that's always the best possibility. And again, Sunday night into Monday is going to be the best time to do so. Lauren, thanks for your question. How fast would the temperature in your house or apartment drop if the power were to go out? It kind of depends. So a lot of times apartments and condos actually have better insulations. Like my particular apartment has not dropped below like 73 degrees all season because I don't keep my doors open that much because I like it to be warm. And that's never turning on the heat. That's just because I live in a newer apartment. So it's really well insulated. Houses don't have the same kind of insulation. So it would drop a little bit quicker if you were in a home. So I would say just, be prepared, of course, if the power were to go out. If you do want to get a generator, if you do plan on, bundling up, things like that. And I know a lot of times people use candles in their homes and stuff to see, if it's at night or just, if the power has gone out and they're cold, but just please be careful. Think about how quickly that could, hop onto a curtain or anything like that if you do plan on doing that. Lancaster County, South Carolina, and Lancaster, South Carolina, rather. Thanks, Naomi, for that question. You guys are kind of on the tail end of it, so more of a trace to an inch. But again, this is going to be snow mixed with sleet and freezing rain. If you guys were watching earlier this week, we talked about the potential that it could be just snow, but it was just more likely that it would be somewhat of a mix because that's just kind of what does historically happen here in the Charlotte area. It's really hard for us to get an event of this magnitude that is straight snow. again, a little bit of changes could still be a possibility, but I've been looking at the models. If you guys have been keeping up with Brad's weather vlogs too, ice is still looking like it's going to be the biggest threat, and that of course is one of the biggest threats, anytime we see a winter storm in the Carolinas, just because it can cause treacherous driving conditions and power outages. Um, okay, yeah, Ice Smith. Yeah, I did see that comment. Yeah, I really hope that you guys don't have that either. The best case scenario is that we'll see the lower end of any of that freezing rain and that sleet, and then hopefully we wouldn't have a lot of accumulation on those power lines and things like that. But, the best thing that we can kind of do for now is just prepare, for the worst and hope for the best. Question, what about Mooresville? I think you guys will be on the higher end, a little bit closer maybe to 2 to 4 inches, just because you're a little bit further north there. But again, we're going to be mixing in um, some of that sleet and freezing rain. I really do. It's sad to say, unfortunately, I really do think that almost everyone, if they're not in the mountains, will likely see, and maybe the northern foothills, will likely see some kind of ice mixing in. So just remember, everybody, that ice is the bigger threat. Fluffy white snow is typically not as much of a threat, in terms of driving conditions and things like that. So just keep that in mind. Rudy, should I get my milk and bread? Hey, whatever you need to do if you do plan on staying inside this weekend. Susie asking about Stanley. I'd say pretty much more the same, about 1 to 2 inches at a maximum. And of course, everyone just remember that these are kind of like more maximum totals. There could be a few isolated spots higher, but these are kind of what we're forecasting, of course, but we're hoping for lower amounts, especially with ice, just because we don't want to, of course, any of you guys to have power outages, things like that. But I think for now, we are going to wrap up this restream, and do another one a little bit later on. I think later on in the day. I know Brad will definitely be hopping in on that one. He was at a conference in Tahoe this week, so he was paying attention all week long. He has not, hopefully you guys have seen his updates, because even though he was gone doing work at that conference, he was not keeping an eye on the forecast. And I know he'll have an update for you later on today. And the First Warn Storm team is here for you all throughout the weekend. Oh, no, it's okay, Joe. Sorry, really quick. I just want to answer this question because Boone could see some of the highest totals. Road conditions driving from Boone through the area, traveling back to Florida on Monday midday. Joe, if you can wait until later on in the day, if not Tuesday, I would wait, just because you guys have the potential to see some of our higher snow totals. And even though snow is not as bad as ice, it still, of course, can provide some travel trouble. So maybe just keep that in mind. If you can, I would say if anyone can wait, that's the best case scenario. If you're working from home or anything like that still, and you can wait to leave your house till Tuesday, Wednesday, if you have that availability. But again, I just want everyone to know, we're all humans, and I know that it's not an option for everyone. Okay, everyone. Well, so we're going to wrap this one up. We'll be back later on. Of course, Brad can answer a few more of your questions. Thank you so much for being here, and just remember to stay safe and stay weather aware. Bye. Happy Friday.